All right, everyone, get ready because today we're diving into the future, well, at least predictions for it. We're taking a deep dive into the Dubai Future Foundation's 50-year outlook.
Yeah, they call it the era of quantum shifts, and they mean that pretty literally.
Oh, how so?
Well, they're saying forget gradual change, think simultaneous breakthroughs across the board, like something straight out of science fiction, completely transforming everything.
Okay, so less about predicting a single future, more like understanding the forces at play,
Yeah.
their version of the rules of the game.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin to wrap our heads around all of that?
They highlight 5 big uncertainties, tensions, they call them, that kind of determine what this future might look like. Think of it like settings on a choose-your-own-adventure. Each path leads to a different future.
Okay, I'm into that, so hit me with it. What's the first tension, that opening line that hooks us in?
It's the classic, material abundance versus resource scarcity. Can we innovate our way out of hitting a resource wall?
So like Star Trek abundance or more Mad Max scarcity?
It's less about predicting the outcome and more about recognizing that the choices we make today impact which path we end up on. It's about you deciding what kind of world you want to live in.
No pressure then. All right, what's the next tension we need to navigate on this journey?
It's the balance between individual agency and collective action. Will our future be shaped by individual choices or the actions of groups, whether it's governments or movements?
So are we talking hyper-individualism, everyone for themselves, or a more interconnected future? This really highlights how crucial our choices are.
Exactly, and it's not some far-off problem. This tension has a very real impact on things like how we design political systems, how we develop technology, even how we deal with global challenges like climate change.
Okay, let's keep it moving with these tensions. What's the next one that's going to shape the next 50 years?
It's the double-edged sword of technology. Increased technological and biological vulnerabilities versus enhanced resilience.
Okay, so on the one hand, we have incredible advancements in areas like medicine or communication. But on the other, that interconnectedness also makes us vulnerable. Think cyber attacks or even pandemics.
Yeah, and think about things like gene editing, bioengineering. We're talking about the very building blocks of life. Unprecedented power, but also the risk of unintended consequences. This tension, it requires us to be proactive, not just about mitigating the risks, but shaping how these powerful tools are used.
Okay, this one's a bit scary. Is there some hope on the horizon with the next one?
Let's talk about fragmented communities versus a borderless world. Will we see continued globalization or a rise in nationalism and smaller, more isolated groups?
So will technology connect us or divide us? It feels like we're already seeing this playing out with social media, immigration debates, even things like local movements making a resurgence.
Exactly, and that's why understanding this tension is so important. The report argues that how we approach governance, communication, even just interactions across borders will determine if we're headed for a more fragmented or interconnected world.
Okay, bring on the final tension. What's the last big question mark hanging over the next 50 years?
This one's a doozy. Physical reality versus digital realities. How intertwined will our digital and physical lives become? Think advanced virtual reality, the metaverse, brain-computer interfaces the works.
We're in the matrix now, aren't we?
Uh,
A future where we can't tell what's real, where our work, our relationships, even our sense of self becomes increasingly digital.
you got it. It makes us question what it means to be human in a world dominated by the digital.
Okay, I'm equal parts terrified and completely hooked.
Yeah.
So the report doesn't just leave us hanging with these uncertainties, does it? What's the point of all this?
Definitely not. These 5 tensions are just the starting point. The Dubai Future Foundation uses them to explore a whole bunch of potential opportunities. We're not just talking about surviving the future, but thriving in it.
All right, now you're speaking my language. Let's dive into those opportunities. First up, what does a thriving future look like in a world grappling with these 5 tensions?
Let's start with something we can all get behind. Nature restored. Imagine a future where we've gone beyond just managing environmental damage to actually restoring our planet.
Okay, that sounds promising. Does that mean I can finally ditch the reusable grocery bags?
Not quite. While the report highlights a ton of opportunities for environmental restoration, it also stresses that these solutions require continuous action and innovation. We're talking about creating a sustainable future, not going back to old habits.
Fair enough. So what kind of innovations are we talking about? Give me some highlights.
How about plastic eaters? Imagine bioengineered microbes, enzymes that can break down plastic waste and clean up our oceans and landfills.
Okay, that would be a game changer. No more guilt trips from those Save the Turtles campaigns. What else is on the table with Nature Restored?
The report also explores unstranded assets. Remember all those oil rigs that are being decommissioned as we shift to cleaner energy?
Those massive metal giants in the ocean. Hard to miss them.
Well, instead of just dismantling them, how about repurposing them for carbon sequestration? They could capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it underground, turning a symbol of pollution into a tool for fighting climate change.
Okay, now that's some impressive upcycling. Turning a liability into an asset. Very clever. What else is on the menu for Nature Restored?
It gets even more ambitious. Picture cities coated in special materials or covered in genetically modified plants, all designed to absorb carbon dioxide from the air, turning urban landscapes into carbon sinks.
So not just reducing our carbon footprint, but reversing it. Our concrete jungles could become actual jungles. That's a wild vision.
That's the idea. The report suggests that this could help cities become carbon negative, removing more carbon dioxide than they produce.
All right, I'm with you on this nature restored vision. Turning deserts into fertile lands, cleaning up our oceans, transforming our cities. Count me in. But what's the catch?
There are always challenges. The report acknowledges that doing things like greening deserts on a massive scale could have unintended consequences for ecosystems.
It's a good reminder that we need to be mindful of the delicate balance of nature. We can't just assume we know better without considering the consequences. What's next on the list of future opportunities?
Next up is societies empowered.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Empowered to do what exactly?
Yeah.
Achieve world peace.
Well, the report is a bit more pragmatic than that. It focuses on opportunities to address some of the most pressing social and political challenges we face today, starting with the climate visa.
Okay, I see where this is going. As climate change intensifies, we're going to see more and more people displaced from their homes due to things like rising sea levels, extreme weather events, resource scarcity.
Exactly. So the report proposes a globally recognized climate visa. This would allow people in those climate-stressed regions to legally migrate to host countries.
It's a complex issue for sure. There are ethical, political, and logistical challenges to figure out. But it's a conversation we can't afford to ignore. Climate migration is already happening.
And it's only going to get more prevalent, which is why the report stresses the importance of proactive planning. The climate visa is more of a starting point for managing climate-induced migration humanely and effectively.
So it's about getting ahead of the curve and creating a framework that protects the rights and well-being of those most affected by climate change. Makes sense to me. What other opportunities for societies empowered does the report highlight?
Well, since we're talking about the future of societies, they address a pretty fundamental element: education.
Education, the great equalizer. Or is it the great divider? So what's the future of education in this era of quantum shifts? More screens, less human interaction.
Actually, the report envisions quite the opposite. They call it whole earth education. It's about ensuring that all children have access to a common, high-quality curriculum no matter where they live.
A global curriculum. That's ambitious. How would that even work?
They argue that technologies like online learning platforms and AI-powered personalized education can help deliver high-quality education to even the most remote and underserved communities.
So instead of replacing teachers, technology becomes a tool to expand their reach. That's encouraging. What are the potential benefits of this whole earth education idea?
It has the potential to level the playing field by giving all children equal access to quality education.
Imagine a world where every child, regardless of their background or location, has the same opportunities to learn and reach their full potential. That's a powerful image.
It is, and it goes beyond just individual growth. The report suggests that a global curriculum could even foster more intercultural understanding and empathy, which could help break down barriers and promote global unity.
Okay, now we're talking about empowering societies in a meaningful way. Not just giving people access to information, but equipping them with the knowledge and perspectives to build a better future.
Precisely.
So we've covered nature restored and societies empowered. What's next on this future opportunities list?
You got it. Health reimagined. This is all about how technology and innovation could transform our health, well-being, and even our lifespans in the coming decades.
All right, let's talk about the future of feeling fantastic. What's first on the agenda for Health Reimagined?
Buckle up, because we're about to delve into the wired brain.
Okay, I'm intrigued and maybe a little terrified. Are we talking about brain implants, mind control, telepathic communication?
You're not far off. The report explores the potential of advanced brain mapping and brain-computer interfaces to revolutionize how we treat mental health.
So instead of therapy or medication, we could potentially treat conditions like depression and anxiety directly at the source.
Exactly. Imagine being able to pinpoint the exact neural pathways involved and using targeted interventions to modulate brain activity and alleviate symptoms.
That would be revolutionary. Mental health is such a sensitive topic, and treatment can be a long and difficult journey for people. To have tools for immediate and effective relief would be life-changing. What else is possible with this wired brain technology?
It's not just about treatment. The report also highlights its potential for enhancing cognitive abilities, improving memory, and even expanding our understanding of consciousness itself.
Okay, now we're venturing into some serious mind-blowing territory. But with all these possibilities, what about the risks? I can't help but think about the potential for misuse, invasion of privacy, or even unintended consequences.
Those are all valid concerns, and the report acknowledges that these technologies need to be developed with careful consideration and regulation. As we delve deeper into health reimagined, ethical considerations are going to be more important than ever.
Agreed. So what's next?
Get ready for home-printed remedies.
Yeah.
Imagine having a device that prints personalized medicine and supplements tailored to your specific needs, your genetic makeup, your health history, the works.
Hold on, we're talking about printing our own medicine at home. Is that even remotely possible?
It might sound like science fiction, but it's closer than you think. Advances in 3D printing, biotechnology, and personalized medicine are converging to make this a real possibility in the near future.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. No more pharmacy visits, no more waiting for prescriptions, just treatments tailored to our individual needs, printed right at home. It sounds incredible. What are the potential benefits of having this level of personalized healthcare?
Several, actually. For one, it could increase access to healthcare, particularly for those in remote or underserved communities. It could reduce costs, cut down on waste, and empower people to take control of their health.
It all sounds really promising, but let's be real. What about the potential downsides? I can't help but think about things like the risks of self-medication, misdiagnosis, or even these devices being hacked.
You raise some important points, and the report does acknowledge those concerns. For home-printed remedies to work, we'd need really robust regulatory frameworks. That way, we can ensure the safety, efficacy, and ethical use of these devices.
It's about striking a balance, right? Harnessing the power of technology while mitigating potential risks.
Absolutely.
So what's next in the world of health reimagined?
Get ready for Dr. Surface.
Dr. Surface. Is that some new medical drama I haven't heard of?
Not quite. Dr. Surface refers to antimicrobial surfaces and materials that can prevent the spread of infections. Think hospitals, schools, even your own home, coated in materials that instantly neutralize harmful bacteria and viruses.
So no more worrying about touching doorknobs or shaking hands. That sounds like a germaphobe's dream.
It could revolutionize public health. Hospitals could become truly healing environments, schools could reduce the spread of common illnesses, and we could potentially prevent future pandemics.
Okay, I see the appeal. But again, let's talk about potential downsides. Could this disrupt the natural balance of things? Like, could these antimicrobial surfaces mess with our microbiomes and make us more susceptible to other health issues?
That's a great question and something researchers are looking into. The report stresses the need for thorough research and risk assessment as these technologies are developed.
It all comes back to that balance, doesn't it? Harnessing technology to improve our health and well-being without creating unintended consequences.
Precisely.
So we've covered a lot in this health reimagined category. From brain-computer interfaces and home-printed remedies to antimicrobial surfaces, the future of health is full of exciting opportunities. What's next?
Get ready to explore how our systems themselves could transform in the coming decades. We call this next category transformational systems optimized.
Transformational systems optimized. Yes, that sounds pretty broad. Are we talking about everything from governments and economies to transportation and energy?
You got it. This category explores how technology and innovation could revolutionize the foundations of our societies. And what better place to start than with food?
Okay, we've already covered home-printed remedies. Does that mean we're about to talk about 3D printed pizza?
Afraid not. Though the way things are going, it wouldn't surprise me. Imagine a world without refrigerators, where food is grown and harvested on demand. No more waste, and everyone has access to fresh, nutritious food.
Wait, a world without refrigerators? How is that even possible?
It might sound far-fetched, but the report highlights several innovations that could make this a reality. Things like vertical farms, precision agriculture, cellular agriculture, even insect protein. We're talking about localizing, personalizing, and drastically increasing the efficiency of food production.
So instead of massive industrial farms and long supply chains, we could grow our food in our backyards, on rooftops, or even in skyscrapers.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to get a taste for this future. But what about the potential downsides? Could these technologies have unintended consequences? Things like biodiversity, food security, or even the cultural significance of food.
Those are important questions, and the report emphasizes that any transition to a new food system will require careful planning, ethical considerations, and a deep understanding of how technology, nature, and society all interact.
It's a good reminder that we can't just innovate our way out of every problem.
Exactly.
So, more on transformational systems, what else does the report tackle?
Get ready to say goodbye to mass production and hello to on-demand manufacturing.
On-demand manufacturing.
Huh. So are we talking about a future where we can just download and print anything we need? A new pair of shoes, a replacement part for our flying car, you name it.
You're getting the idea. The report explores a future where advances in 3D printing, robotics, and artificial intelligence allow us to manufacture products on demand, locally, and with minimal waste.
Okay, so instead of huge factories, we could have smaller, more agile manufacturing hubs. And those hubs produce goods tailored to local needs.
Exactly. This shift could lead to a more sustainable and resilient manufacturing sector, one that is less reliant on long supply chains, fossil fuels, and exploitative labor practices. It's interesting to think about the implications of all that for things like our economies, our environment, even our relationship with material goods. But, as always, what about the potential downsides?
Well, for one, could this worsen existing inequalities? Those who have access to the technology would benefit, while others might be left behind. And what about jobs as automation increases?
Those are definitely challenges that need to be addressed.
The report stresses that a just and equitable transition to this kind of decentralized manufacturing system will require careful planning and investment in things like workforce development.
So it's about ensuring that the benefits of these technologies are shared by everyone.
Exactly.
So we've got zero-waste food and on-demand manufacturing. What other exciting opportunities for transforming our systems does this report explore?
Hold on to your hats because we're diving into the fascinating and potentially unsettling world of governance by machine.
Governance by machine. Okay, now we're getting into science fiction territory. Are we talking about robots ruling the world?
Not that extreme, though it's fun to think about. The report is really exploring the potential for AI and advanced algorithms to play a larger role in decision-making, particularly in government and policymaking.
So instead of relying on us flawed humans, we could have machines analyze massive amounts of data and make more objective, efficient, and impartial decisions. It's an intriguing idea, especially given how complex governments are these days, but it also feels a bit unsettling, to be honest.
It's a big shift, and it raises a lot of ethical and practical questions. For example, who gets to program these algorithms? Who is accountable for their decisions? Can we program machines to make ethical judgments, or will they simply reflect the biases of their creators?
Those are all crucial questions that need to be considered.
The report emphasizes that any move toward greater automation in governance must be approached carefully, with robust safeguards in place to ensure transparency, accountability, and human oversight.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Using technology to improve governance without sacrificing those essential human values of fairness and compassion.
You got it.
Now, before we get too lost in the world of governance by machine, are there any other transformational systems we should discuss?
Definitely. The report dives into a few more, including rapid response regulators, the universal digital interface, and the real work from anywhere revolution. But I think we've covered enough ground for today. We can save those for another deep dive.
I like the way you think. We've already explored so many fascinating and thought-provoking ideas, from nature restored and societies empowered to health reimagined and transformational systems optimized.
It is a lot to process, and we're not even done yet.
Wait, there's more. Don't tell me another cliffhanger ending.
You'll have to wait and see. The journey through the future isn't over yet. We still have much more to explore, including a whole category dedicated to the truly transformative opportunities that could redefine our world, but we'll save those for next time. Until then, keep those imaginations firing and those questions coming.
All right, future explorers, welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we waded through those 5 big tensions shaping the next 50 years, according to the Dubai Future Foundation. From resource scarcity to the blurring of realities, it was a lot to think about.
And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Remember those opportunities we started to unpack? Well, the report has a whole category called transformational. These are ideas so radical they could completely change how we live, work, even think.
Okay, I'm ready to have my mind blown. What's the first course on this transformational menu?
Let's start with designer cells. Imagine biology replacing chemistry as the foundation for entire industries, a more sustainable and efficient world.
Designer cells.
So, scientists in lab coats, cooking up a better future one cell at a time. It does sound like sci-fi, but it's closer than you think. We're talking about using biology to create new materials, products, processes, bio-derived plastics, fuels, textiles, even building materials nature as the factory of the future.
Instead of depleting resources, we're using nature's toolkit to create what we need. What would that actually look like?
Imagine growing plastics using bioengineered cells instead of mining for them, or powering cities with biofuels from algae instead of fossil fuels. It's a shift from extraction to regeneration.
That's a massive change.
Yeah.
What are the biggest hurdles to making this designer cells vision a reality?
Scaling up these technologies to meet global demand is a big one. It takes investment in research, development of infrastructure, and we have to address those ethical concerns around things like genetic engineering.
Right, we can't just throw technology at a problem and hope for the best. Okay, what's the next transformational idea?
How about an endless water cycle?
An endless water cycle.
Yeah.
Water scarcity is a big deal. You're saying we could engineer our way out of that.
The report explores exactly that. Imagine a future where water scarcity is a thing of the past. All thanks to tech that purifies and recycles water endlessly, wastewater becomes a valuable resource.
That would be incredible. How do we even begin to make that happen? What kind of technologies are we talking about?
Think desalination plants powered by renewable energy, smart irrigation to minimize waste, even nanotechnology pulling water from the air. It's about a closed-loop system where water is constantly reused and replenished.
Okay, a world where clean water is abundant, that's a powerful vision. But I imagine there are challenges.
Of course, desalination can be energy intensive, and there are environmental impacts to consider. Plus, messing with the natural water cycle on a large scale requires serious planning to avoid unintended consequences.
It's about striking a balance, innovation with responsibility.
Well said. Now get ready, because this next idea might change how we measure success as a society.
You've got my attention.
The report calls it GDP 2.0. It's about moving beyond GDP as the main indicator of progress and well-being.
GDP 2.0, I'll admit, that doesn't sound super exciting at first glance.
It's about more than just numbers, though. GDP has been criticized for its narrow focus on economic output. It ignores social well-being, environmental sustainability, even happiness. GDP 2.0 is about creating metrics that give us a more holistic view of progress.
So instead of just measuring how much stuff we make and buy, we start measuring quality of life, social equity, those kinds of things.
You got it.
That makes a lot of sense. But getting everyone on board with a whole new system of measurement, that's got to be a challenge.
It would be a huge shift in mindset, that's for sure. It would take global cooperation, political will, and a real willingness to rethink what progress even means.
It's a good reminder that real change isn't just about technology, but about changing our values.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, let's shift gears from measuring progress to a radical new approach to tackling climate change.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The report calls it cash for carbon. Imagine a future where we incentivize environmental responsibility by paying polluters to reduce their emissions.
Cash for carbon. So instead of punishing polluters, we'd be rewarding them for cleaning up their act.
Exactly. It's about flipping the script on environmental regulation, using market forces to drive change.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. How would that work in the real world?
Picture a system where companies or even countries that reduce their emissions earn carbon credits. Those credits could be sold to others who exceed their limits, creating a financial incentive to reduce pollution.
It's like a cap-and-trade system, but with a positive spin. What are the potential benefits of this approach?
Well, for one, it taps into the power of the free market to drive environmental progress. This can be much more effective than traditional regulations, which can be tough to enforce.
It's an interesting idea, but like any system, I imagine there are potential downsides.
Of course, you'd need a well-designed system to prevent loopholes and ensure fairness. You'd have to make sure companies are actually reducing emissions, not just gaming the system.
Right, no system is perfect. But it's definitely worth exploring innovative approaches like this if we want to find sustainable solutions. What's next on our tour of transformational ideas?
Get ready to say goodbye to material possessions as we know them and embrace an immaterial world.
An immaterial world? Does that mean we all become digital nomads, wandering the world with nothing but the clothes on our backs?
It's not quite that extreme, but you're on the right track. The report envisions a future where we consume fewer physical goods and focus more on experiences, services, and digital content.
So instead of buying a car, we'd subscribe to a transportation service. Instead of a house full of stuff, it's a minimalist apartment and everything on demand.
You got it. This shift could have a huge impact on our economies, the environment, and even our values.
I can see that being good for the planet, consuming less, wasting less. But I like having things. Would we have to give up all material possessions in this immaterial world?
Not necessarily. It's more about shifting from ownership to access. It's about recognizing that true wealth and fulfillment come from experiences, relationships, not just stuff.
That's an interesting perspective. But what about our economies? Wouldn't a shift like that be a huge deal?
It would require a major restructuring, that's for sure, with a bigger emphasis on services and digital content, but it could also create new opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship.
I see what you mean, a whole new world. But before we get too caught up in this immaterial world, what other transformational ideas are in the report?
Let's talk about data is no longer currency.
The end of data as currency. That's a bold statement, especially these days when it seems like data is everything. What does that even mean? Would we have no privacy?
It's not about ending data collection altogether. It's about changing how data is used and valued, treating it as a public good, not something to be bought and sold.
So instead of big tech companies controlling our data, it would be managed for the benefit of everyone.
Precisely. The report highlights how things like blockchain and DAOs could create new models for data governance. Imagine individuals having more control over their data and how it's used.
That's a much more equitable approach to data. But how realistic is it to shift from our current system to one that puts the common good first?
It would require a big shift in power dynamics and a willingness to challenge how things are done. It's about fundamentally rethinking our relationship with technology.
It is. Technology is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide. Okay, what's next?
Get ready for this. Putting our heads together, using brain-computer interfaces to share information and experiences directly.
Hold on a minute. Didn't we already talk about that?
We touched upon it earlier, but the report dives deeper here. This time, it's about the potential for revolutionizing communication and connection. Imagine sharing thoughts, feelings, even sensory experiences directly with another person without needing words.
Okay, there's a lot to take in. Again, what about the risks? What's stopping someone from hacking into my brain?
Those are valid concerns. The report stresses the need for strong security, ethical guidelines, clear boundaries. But imagine if we get it right.
That's a lot of what ifs.
It is. This kind of transformation needs a balanced approach, innovation, but with ethics and responsibility.
I agree. Okay, what else does the report cover?
Let's talk about screening for good. Imagine a future where genetic screening is so advanced that we can identify and prevent debilitating conditions before they even happen.
Screening for good. Sounds promising, but also raises some ethical red flags. What about genetic discrimination, privacy, and the potential to use this for things like selecting desirable traits, creating designer babies?
You're hitting on some huge ethical and societal questions. These are complex issues with no easy answers, and the report acknowledges that. We need careful consideration, regulation, and open discussion as these technologies are developed.
We need to have these conversations now to make sure this technology is used ethically.
Exactly. Now, what if we could hit refresh on our own minds with rebooting memory? Enhance cognitive abilities, improve memory, maybe even reverse aging in our brains, all thanks to neuroscience and brain-computer interfaces.
Rebooting memory. That sounds too good to be true. But seriously, what are the potential benefits and risks of memory-enhancing technologies?
The benefits could be huge. Imagine being able to learn faster, remember more, and stay sharp as you age. This could transform education, healthcare, even how we understand consciousness.
It's incredible, but also a little worrying. Would it widen the gap between those who have access to these advancements and those who don't?
You're right. These are valid concerns.
We need to be cautious and understand the potential consequences of this technology.
Exactly. And speaking of technology for good, let's explore microscopic miracles, where nanotechnology revolutionizes healthcare.
Microscopic miracles? Are we talking tiny robots shrinking down to fight diseases.
It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Imagine nanotechnology creating revolutionary treatments for diseases like cancer, obesity, genetic disorders, things we struggle with today. Targeted drug delivery systems delivering medication precisely where it's needed, minimizing side effects.
That would be a game changer. What would that look like in our bodies?
Microscopic robots, tinier than a human cell traveling through your bloodstream. Imagine them delivering drugs to tumors or repairing damaged tissues. This could potentially cure diseases we thought were incurable and help us live much longer.
It's both fascinating and a little creepy to imagine nanobots inside us. Are there risks with this technology?
With any new technology, there are always potential risks. Some experts are concerned about the toxicity of nanomaterials and the possibility of them malfunctioning or harming healthy cells. However, the potential benefits are driving research in nanomedicine, and we're seeing promising advancement.
Comes down to balance again, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Let's talk about the Internet of Humans.
The Internet of Humans. Does that mean we're all connected to some kind of hive mind, sharing our every thought and feeling?
It's not quite that dramatic, though it's a fun image. The report explores a future where brain-computer interfaces blur the lines between the physical and digital. Imagine accessing information, communicating, even controlling devices just with your thoughts.
Okay, that sounds straight out of the Matrix.
Mm.
What about privacy? Security? If our minds are online, couldn't someone hack into them?
Those are important concerns, and the report emphasizes addressing them early on. We need strong security measures, ethical guidelines, clear boundaries.
Again, it comes back to using technology responsibly.
Absolutely. Now, for a change of pace, let's come back down to earth.
Okay, I'm ready.
Imagine the real work-from-anywhere revolution. Advancements in technology and remote work tools let us work from anywhere in the world. No more geographical barriers, a more flexible and fair work environment.
A work-from-anywhere revolution.
Or
No more commutes. We could work from anywhere with good internet. Sounds idyllic, but could it lead to social isolation? Or make it tough to separate work and personal life?
those are valid concerns, and the report talks about that. Transitioning to a more flexible work environment needs careful consideration. It's not just about working from anywhere. It's about creating a work culture that supports people no matter where they are.
It's about finding that balance.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot in this transformational category. Designer cells, an endless water cycle, the end of data as currency, the real work from anywhere revolution, and many more. What do you think about all these ideas?
My mind is officially blown. It's both really exciting and a bit overwhelming to imagine.
It is a lot to take in, but that's the beauty of this report. It's not about giving us all the answers. It's about giving us a way to think about the future and the choices we can make today.
Well said. So, where do we go from here?
I think it's time to bring it all together and explore what this transformational future means for you, the listener, and what you can do to prepare for it.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been on quite a journey through the future. The Dubai Future Foundation has given us a lot to think about.
From those 5 big tensions to all those transformational opportunities, it's been a wild ride.
But this deep dive isn't just about passively observing the future, is it? It's about understanding how we can actually shape it.
You hit the nail on the head. This report isn't just a prediction, it's a call to action. It's about understanding these trends not as inevitabilities, but as forces we can influence.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we go from being passive observers to active participants in shaping the future?
It starts with figuring out what really resonates with you. Maybe you're excited about the potential of designer cells and a more sustainable future. Your path might involve supporting companies working in bioengineering or even pursuing a career in that field.
It's about finding where your passions and these emerging trends intersect.
Exactly. Let's say you're passionate about social justice. The climate visa concept might be right up your alley. You could support organizations helping climate migrants or even get involved in research on migration policies.
So identify the trends that align with your values and then find ways to contribute, whether it's through your career, your activism, or even just your everyday choices.
Precisely. Even small actions can make a difference. Imagine if everyone listening committed to reducing their environmental impact, supporting sustainable businesses, or advocating for better policies. Collectively, that's a powerful force.
It's about realizing we're not just along for the ride. We're all drivers in shaping the future.
Exactly. And while this report focuses on big global trends, the most important takeaway is that the future isn't some abstract concept. It's the result of billions of individual choices that we make every single day.
So what's one thing our listeners can do today to start shaping their own futures.
Talk about these ideas with people you know, your friends, family, colleagues. The more we talk about these potential futures, the more we can shape them together.
That's a great point. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Dubai Future Foundation's vision for the next 50 years.
It's been quite a journey, and hopefully it sparked some ideas and got you thinking differently about what's to come.
We've covered a lot, the exciting, the uncertain. But one thing's for sure, the future isn't set in stone.
It's a blank canvas, and it's up to all of us to paint the future we want to see.
So to everyone listening, we leave you with this. What future will you create?